We're going to talk about American companies doing business in China and whether CEOs should be speaking out more about rights issues as they've done in this country. Joining us now is Kyle Bass, Hayman Capital Management founder and chief investment officer. What a speech, Kyle, and delivered in full Mao garb. I mean, that looks like right out of the pictures that Andy wore, whatever. That is Mao garb, talking about democracy. And what I also didn't hear was if China has any, I don't know if I want to say remorse, but any second thoughts about any of the stuff they've been doing. You certainly didn't hear any hint of remorse from him, almost sort of like we're going to double down and do more of it.
Yeah, well, good to be here, Joe. I think she is the master at playing the victim while being the aggressor. And his rhetoric has turned more and more nationalistic. And, when you hear what Eunice said, today is also the 1-year anniversary of the imposition of the national security law in Hong Kong. And Jack Ma's communist tabloid yesterday had a story out that said Hong Kong National Security Police have a watch list of residents that are, quote, trying to flee Hong Kong. No real country has to wall their people in. And China has erased democracy in Hong Kong in literally 1 year's time. And so it's hard for me to believe that this is happening with such breakneck speed, and yet she plays the victim.
You heard how the segment was introduced, that what are we going to hear? Are we going to hear U.S. companies or American companies speak out about some of the things happening in China that aren't very good, to be honest? Just as a fellow citizen of the world, they're not.
Yeah,
not only are we not going to hear them speak out about it. Did you see what Nike said? What John? Oh, actually, I think we're going to toss it aside. Kyle, let's just do it. I want to play something Nike CEO John Donahoe said last week about China on the company's fourth quarter earnings call. Talks about growth in the country and references Nike co-founder Phil Knight's efforts there. Here it is.
We're confident about what we're seeing in China as we drive long-term growth. And we have a long-term view about China. And we've always taken a long-term view. We've been in China for over 40 years. Phil invested significant time and energy in China in the early days. And today we're the largest sport brand there, and we're a brand of China and for China.
Well, that's nice. So I didn't hear anything about the Uyghurs there. I heard we're a brand for China, and I understand the money, and I saw the NBA and what happened when, what did that guy say? He barely said anything. And the players across the board, coaches, all found the need to soothe China's feelings because of 600 million fans. Yeah,
I think if U.S. national security was left up to corporate America, we'll all be speaking Chinese very quickly. I think that Nike's comments were actually pretty unbelievable, to say that Nike's of China for China. Nike does about $6.5 billion in revenue in China, about $14 billion revenue in the United States. And look, his job is to, I guess, maximize profitability. They are social justice warriors where they see fit until it affects their wallet. So whether it's LeBron James or Nike or Disney, they will be social justice warriors here in the United States because it's fashionable to do so. When it comes to a regime that the U.S. State Department has labeled as genocidal and committing crimes against humanity, their lips are sealed. They actually become of China for China.
I mentioned Milton Friedman earlier saying it's just like night follows day. The more economically successful China becomes, the more freedoms that the Chinese people are going to enjoy. And this past week in the Journal, they just said Milton Friedman was just dead wrong. That's not happening. So much for opening up because of the internet and coming into some of the human rights freedoms and such that we have in the West. That's not coming anytime soon, it doesn't appear.
No, I mean, I see the early view all the way back to, Nixon and Kissinger was, let's hug the panda and invite it in and show it how Western capitalism works. And they will open up, therefore, once they see the positive attributes and the benefits of doing so. And in the end, what happened is the panda bit us and is only becoming more closed and more authoritative. And just look at what they've done to democracy in Hong Kong. They have snuffed out democracy in Hong Kong in a little over 1 year. It's kind of shocking. Eunice said it's the 24th anniversary of the handover of Hong Kong from the British to the Chinese. If you remember, the Chinese signed an agreement, the Sino-British Joint Declaration of 1984, that said they would leave Hong Kong alone for 50 years. That was supposed to expire in 2047. They went 26 years early and abrogated an agreement that was filed at the UN for everyone to see. And they simply tore it up and said it didn't suit them anymore. That's the way China operates around the world. They do whatever they want to do. And an agreement is only the beginning of a negotiation for them.
Hey, Kyle, I keep thinking about what an American company should do, because I completely agree with you in terms of the direction that China has taken. And yet I sit and say to myself, if I was in the shoes of the CEO of a Starbucks, of an Apple, of a Coca-Cola, am I better off getting out of China completely? And does that send some signal either to the marketplace, or do I have some leverage in the system? And I think the answer is no. Or am I better off staying there? And to the extent that our company can make some money and it's going to flow back to the United States or flow back to employees and investors and the like, maybe that's the best. Life is relative. So I'm just trying to figure out what you think. And by the way, I recognize the hypocrisy of also the other point, which is if you're going to make sort of social justice points in the U.S., you'd think you should be making those same points in China. I completely understand that. But I don't know if the answer is don't make social justice an important issue in the United States, or the issue is get out of China.
Right. I mean, being duplicitous and openly duplicitous is a difficult position to take. I agree with you that, again, if it left to corporate America, their job is to maximize profits, and they're going to do so. So what this requires, it requires leadership in D.C. It requires the State Department, the Commerce Department, the National Security Complex, National Security Council to get together and actually make some difficult decisions. Don't just lead with rhetoric and do nothing on the other side, because corporate America will never stop chasing the profits and the pot of gold of 1.4 billion Chinese. They can hardly contain themselves, regardless of what China does on the world stage, unless there's leadership in D.C. So, Andrew, this has got to come from the U.S. administration, whoever's running our country, and whoever's labeling China as a genocidal regime. I mean, you had the last two administrations agree and label them as genocidal and committing crimes against humanity. So someone's got to take the next step.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.